Hello everyone, it is your Federal Phoenix, and today we're going to talk about federal sentencing memorandums. First, let's just start by clarifying what this means. Um, if you are a federal defendant in the process of your criminal case, after your plea hearing, before your sentencing at some point, your attorney has the option to file what is called a sentencing memorandum. And what this is designed to do, the purpose of this document, is to portray you in a way that kind of gives the judge a clear picture of who you are outside of your criminal activity. Um, I would say alleged, but most of you are going to take plea deals, as I did, as nearly 100% of defendants do. If you don't take a plea deal, then sentencing memorandum can come into place after you're found guilty by a jury prior to your sentencing. But I know for most of us, it'll be plea deal to sentencing. Um, so what your lawyer's going to do at this point? Let's say your federal crime was perhaps something white collar. Perhaps you embezzled some money from a nonprofit you worked for. You got a little disgruntled or a little greedy and decided you were owed more than your paycheck, so you started skimming. Or maybe you're not a white collar criminal. Maybe you're a blue collar per se criminal. Maybe you were importing and exporting firearms or drugs. So the idea of the sentencing memorandum, because obviously the overwhelming thing that your judge is looking at is your charge and the fact that you pled guilty or were found guilty, and what your guidelines are for prison time. During your sentencing memorandum, your lawyer should be pointing out things like, your mind state or your circumstances were a result of an abusive relationship, were the product and part of perhaps some mental illness, perhaps the good things about you. Do you give charitably? Do you volunteer in your community? Have you maintained employment that is non-related to your criminal activity for an extended period of time? Is the type of employment you do something particularly honorable? Like maybe you work in the medical field, or perhaps you work with underprivileged youth or something. What volunteer activities do you do? Who are you in a positive way outside of your criminal case? And the idea behind this is to give the judge a more well-rounded picture of who you are as a person. That way the judge, when he's considering your sentencing, he's considering a sentence that fits your crime based on guidelines, but also considering mitigating factors, outside factors. A person with no priors, obviously, typically should be given a lighter sentence. I mean, prison is hell in America. And, there's no need subjecting to someone to 3 years of that versus 8 years of that. Generally, unless they're a truly aggressive, active threat to their community, that extra 5 years is redundant and unnecessary and does nothing more than create post-incarceration syndrome and a series of circumstances, disconnect from family and friends and community and so on and so forth, that just set the person up to recidivize, to go back to prison. And one of the ideas that's supposed to be implemented in the correction system is rehabilitation, to try to, the crime should fit, the punishment should fit the crime, that you're punished adequately, but not to such an extreme that you're adequately punished, but then also rendered a threat. The idea of incarcerating you is to mitigate a threat to society, not create one. A lot of lawyers, when they do their sentencing memorandum, whether they're paid or public defenders, they don't say a word to you about it. They just kind of, copy paste, a generic kind of, platform, and then they just shoot it off as a matter of formality. It's a checklist on things they have to do and it's done. You need to contact your lawyer within a month or so after your plea hearing and say something along the lines of, hey, I know that we've already done my PSR is coming up, if it's not done yet, what are we looking at as far as scheduling for that? Certainly I need to speak to you prior to that. Also, by the way, have you started my sentencing memorandum? I feel in order to adequately portray the uniqueness of my situation and my circumstance, and to properly portray me in a positive light, you need to actually kind of know me a little bit. And so I was really hoping that we could speak prior to you doing my sentencing memorandum, so that my sentencing memorandum can be very personalized and more effective. And you can say, in addition to that, whenever you've completed it, if you don't mind, you be respectful, But if you don't mind, I'd like a chance to look it over and see if there's anything that we may need to correct or alter, or perhaps put more or less emphasis on, so it, again, can be as effective as humanly possible. And, kind of in this email or this correspondence with, I'm not trying to tell you how to do your job. I'm not questioning your competence. But, in your world, I'm a case number on a criminal docket. In my world, this sentence that is going to be imposed upon me will affect not only myself, but all of those closest to me and the rest of my life. So, this is a very significant matter to me that I'm taking very seriously, and I hope you can understand my position. I've heard of situations where people have said they've contacted their lawyer about their sentencing memorandum, and the lawyer said, "Oh, I already did it." And when they said, "Oh, well, can I see it?" And they said, "Oh, no, I don't show it to clients." This lawyer, even if he's a federal public defender, federal CJA, he's getting about $150 an hour. Whether he's just looking over your paperwork, typing up something, emailing something, talking to you on the phone, whatever. And this is your life. This is another number and his track record for him, but this is your life. And you can't expect someone else to take the seriousness of your freedom, or the duration of your incarceration, or the restitution you're required to pay. It's not going to weigh for another person as much as it weighs for you, because it's your business, it's your situation. But what you can expect is for $150 an hour, for a person to show you some common courtesy and consideration, and to at least to some degree make you feel as though your circumstance mattered to them. My lawyer is not very communicative. I'm actually going to send this email we're talking about to my lawyer tomorrow, because I'll do so, during business days, business hours, because that's most appropriate. If I can't see my memorandum, and I've said before, if my PSR, because you'll see that before you go to sentencing, you'll see your PSR and you'll have a chance to dispute, facts within it. If my PSR paints me in an unfairly negative light, then I will then submit to the court, kind of to counterbalance that, a personal narrative. Until I see that, I'm not going to do a personal narrative. Now, and in light of sentencing memorandums, and in thought of that, your sentencing memorandum, your lawyer's job is to portray you in a positive manner, to even through rose-colored glasses to portray you. You got to be very careful about portraying yourself positively to your judge too much, because it's going to come off as manipulative. It's going to come off as though you're not taking responsibility or accountability. So you really want to outsource all of the painting you in a positive light to be done by the probation department, based upon, your pre-sentence release behavior and track record, or maybe just your life leading up to your crimes. You want to be done by your lawyer in your sentencing memorandum. If my lawyer does not let me see my sentencing memorandum, I'm going to know, especially if he hasn't talked to me before he does it, because the guy really doesn't even know me at all. I'm going to assume that it was very much a copy-paste, just a formality on the checklist. And that's going to make me a lot more inclined to submit a personal narrative. I really am trying not to submit a personal narrative. I'm trying to tread away from that, because, again, you don't want your personal narrative, and I made a video about those, so please watch that if you haven't already. You don't want your personal narrative to come off in any way, shape, or form as you excusing your conduct. You want that to be done or portrayed through the sentencing memorandum, through what your lawyer says at sentencing. Your allocution and your direct speak to the judge, which will pretty much just be your allocution at sentencing, which I'll do a video on allocution as well, needs to be very humble, very introspective, very sincere, very direct, and very apologetic. And so you want the portraying of you in a good, positive way to be done by other people, because one, that creates more credibility with that. And two, it saves you from the pitfall of potentially being perceived as a person who's excusing your wrongs or your crimes or your actions. So that's my piece on sentencing memorandums. Get a hold of your lawyer about a month after your plea hearing if he hasn't contacted you beforehand. Talk to him about your sentencing memorandum. Talk to him about anything you think is particularly notable to be put in there. Talk to him about wanting to see it before he submits it, ideally, just to make sure that everything is, all the ducks are in a row. And ask him if he intends to submit one. If he doesn't, that's not a good sign. I mean, that means that the checklist of things that are done as formality in your case, some of them are being just kind of ignored, and that's a really bad sign. So you need to be thorough. You need to be proactive. Yes, it is your lawyer or your public defender's job to represent you and to handle all the formalities and to keep you informed. But the reality is, whether you're paying a lawyer $250,000, a couple million, whether you have a public defender, at the end of the day, they are going to get the same paycheck, whether it's from you or another defendant or the federal government. And they're going to have a bombardment, a mountain of cases at any given time. You are not that significant in their world, although they're pivotal in your world. And you need to really approach this person with an attitude of gratitude, with a humbleness, but you also need to be very assertive and very direct and very plainly spoken. Be nice, but you don't need to kiss up to him and coddle him, because guess what? He's got a job to do, and that job is representing you. And you need to assert yourself. And I know that may be difficult, and it can be difficult with so much on the line to assert yourself and not come off as disrespectful or condescending. But that's a balance you got to find. And you got to find it quick, like yesterday, and you got to start implementing it now. So in regard to sentencing memorandums in the federal court, now you know what they are and what they're for and what they did and their purpose. Contact your lawyer shortly after your plea hearing and ask if he intends to do one. Ask him to speak to you prior to doing it. Ask him if you can see it prior to him submitting it. And if he does not submit one, if he does not show you the one he submitted, or if you feel that it was just very generic and not very personable, and it should be very personable to you, then that's when, again, I strongly advocate you consider doing submitting a personal narrative prior to your sentencing. And again, I have a whole video on those. As of right now, I don't intend to submit a personal narrative. I want to see what happens with the sentencing memorandum, and I want to see what happens with the PSR. If I'm not being portrayed in a accurate way, which I think would overall be positive, then I'm going to step in and submit a personal narrative, because you cannot just sit on your hands and wait for sentencing and hope things work out as well as they can. Because if you do that, then, I really hope you've put together a extremely in-depth reading list, because you're just preparing yourself for failure and for more time than you necessarily need to end up doing. So that's my thoughts and my piece and a little info on sentencing memorandums. Like I said, I'll do one on allocution soon. At your sentencing, the judge will read off your charges, will read off, what you pled or that you were found guilty. And, there's a lot of yes, your honors to understanding these things. And then they'll probably go over the details of your plea deal. If you signed one, again, yes, your honor, you know these things, you agreed to them. Then the prosecutor's job at sentencing is he's going to give a little speech portraying you in the most negative light possible, asking for the harshest sentence possible within your plea deal. Or possible period if you don't have a plea deal. Your lawyer's job is then to do the opposite. They're like yin and yang. His job is then to portray you in an incredibly positive light and really try to compel the courts to be as lenient with you as legally possible. And then after both these, kind of the good devil and the good angel and the bad devil on the shoulder of the judge, spoke, then it's your turn. And then the judge will say, is there anything you would like to say before you were sentenced? This is called your allocution. And it would be incredibly foolish for most people not to give allocution. But allocution can be your saving grace or it can be your Achilles heel. So we will talk more about allocution in a later video. I hope this video was helpful. I'm definitely giving allocution. Like the video. If you liked the video, feel free to subscribe, hit the dingy bell for notifications. As you all know, I'll be going to prison probably in a few months, and I'll probably be gone for some months or years, probably years. And when I come out, I'll start making videos again on my YouTube channel. So if you don't want to miss that, if you want to be in on the loop when I come back out with all the new information and experiences, hit the notification bell. You may not hear nothing from me for a few years, and then boom, one day I'll pop up probably 100 pounds later, whole lot more athletic, more well-read, and with this federal prison experience, in the rear view, but still in view to share with you. So thank you very much for your time. This is your Federal Phoenix. Wishing everyone a beautiful day and a good day. God bless, and I will talk to y'all later.